In this video, I'm going to go over the quest lore that happens in the starting zone for the Death Knights. Now, this is the first video in this series, but having said that, let's jump right in and find out what's going on in World of Warcraft. You start off near the Eastern Plaguelands, in an area called the Scarlet Enclave, high above in a building called Acherus, the Ebon Hold. The first thing you do is speak to the Lich King himself. He says that he has granted you immortality, so that you may herald in a new dark age for the Scourge. Below you, the Scarlet Crusade is rushing to undo the Lich King's work, and Light's Hope stands defiantly against you. As a Death Knight, you will become a force of retribution. After the Lich King is done talking to you, he wants you to report to Instructor Rasuvius, in the heart of Acherus. Once you find Rasuvius, who likes to run a lot, he tells you that the single most important piece of equipment for a Death Knight is the runeblade, and that it is through the weapon that a Death Knight commands the powers of Frost, Blood, and Unholy. From here, he wants you to search the racks for a battle-worn sword, and use it on a rune forge to craft your first rune blade. So now you look for a sword on the rack, and use it to forge the blade. After that's done, Rasuvius commends you on your first weapon, and says that with it, you'll sow the seeds of chaos and destruction. He then rewards you with 3 different swords, so that you have a variety to choose from. Now that you know the art of rune forging, you're able to engrave runes of power on your weaponry. He now wants you to return to the forge, and emblazon your weapon with a rune of power. Once you successfully engrave one onto your sword, you return to Rasuvius, who reminds you that the rune forge can only be used here at Acherus, as well as certain parts located in Icecrown. But now comes the true trial. Rasuvius tells you that something called the Endless Hunger will soon take hold of you, and when it does, you will feel immeasurable pain. The only way to remedy the suffering is to have the hunger sated. In order to do this, Rasuvius wants you to free an unworthy initiate, one who was deemed unworthy of the Dark Brotherhood. Then allow him to be equipped for battle, and duel him to the death. Killing him will cause the pain to cease, but if you fail, then you'll suffer for eternity. So now you head down to the middle and free the initiate. Allow him to equip his gear, and fight him to the death until you win. Then you report back to Vesuvius. He tells you that you're ready for what lies ahead. He then goes on to explain what this building really is, and says that the Acherus is the grand citadel of death. Man, things are getting really deep. And that not even the mighty Naxxramas could stand an assault from the Ebon Hold. Looming above the citadel is the all-seeing eye of Acherus. And while using it, the Lich King is able to see great distances into territories held by our enemies. What the eye sees, the Lich King sees. And now it's time to peer through the eye yourself. So from here, you report back to the Lich King. He says that it's time to spill the blood of our enemies. But first, you must learn what it is you seek to destroy. This right here is what separates a Death Knight from a mindless ghoul. And now, the Lich King wishes to grant you sight beyond sight, by using the Eye of Acherus to steal the enemy's secrets. Using the Eye, you will analyze the Scarlet Crusade fortifications in New Avalon. Specifically, you'll be analyzing the Forge, the Town Hall, the Hold, and the Chapel. So you use the Eye and analyze the 4 buildings you were told to check out. Then you report back to the Lich King. He says that it's expected that they're preparing for battle, but he also mentions that he senses an old enemy, an enemy that he destroyed long ago. But for now, he says that it doesn't matter, and that we'll send the full might of the Scourge against them. The Lich King then gives his final judgment: death to all. He wants you to speak to High Lord Mograine in the command post in Acherus, and tell him to begin the assault. And when the Crusade has been dealt with, then we will finish off the Argent Dawn. So you head to the first floor, and meet up with High Lord Mograine, who then rewards you with the Bladed Ebon Amulet, before commanding you to lead the charge down below into New Avalon. He then says that Scourge Commander Thalanor is awaiting your arrival, at the balcony located directly southeast of our position. Once you meet with Thalanor, you're to requisition a Scourge Griffin to deliver you to Death's Breach, and meet up with Prince Valinar. But before you leave to do all of that, you speak with Lord Thorval. He tells you that within the Hall of Command, you will find the schools of Blood, Frost, and Unholy. Each school has a trainer and can provide you with knowledge in those respected arts. Lord Thorval is the headmaster of the School of Blood. Lady Alistra reigns over Unholy, and Amal Thazad holds dominion over the Frost. So if you ever need to learn more about those fields of study, you know who to talk to. Now, you head over to Thalanor, who tells you that the war has already begun, and says that he'll place you on his finest griffin, and deliver you to Death's Breach. So you hop on the griffin and fly down below, and once you arrive, you meet up with Prince Valinar, who tells you that it's time for bloodshed. He says that terror will be your first lesson in Scourge warfare. Your mission is to kill the Scarlet Crusaders, leaving their corpses so we can utilize them for something called the Death March. But most importantly, you need to kill the fleeing villagers. Because soldiers dying is an affordance, but villagers, that's what strikes the fear into the hearts of men. He wants you to kill 10 Scarlet Crusaders or 10 Scarlet Peasants, as well as 10 citizens of Havenshire. Before leaving, you run into Salinar the Horseman, who tells you that the Crusade has a stable full of horses, and that if you acquire one, Salinar will see what he can do in transforming it into a proper Death Charger. Also hanging around Death's Breach is Ulrun the Battle Caller. She talks about something called the Death's Challenge, which was born from the Lich King's victory over Illidan Stormrage in the heart of the Frozen Wastes. Death's Challenge is a rite of passage that all Death Knights must undergo. Pretty much what it is you seek out other Death Knights and challenge them to a duel. And then you fight them until somebody wins. Ulrun wants you to duel 5 different Death Knights to complete the challenge. And lastly, you run into Orithos the Sky Darkener. He says that the Sky Darkeners are mindless constructs with one purpose: kill. They're specifically targeting any man or woman fleeing from Havenshire to the safety of New Avalon. But the arrows that they're using are made from Serenite, and Serenite can only be found in Northrend. So needless to say, supplies are limited. Having said that, he wants you to retrieve 15 Serenite arrows in the area when you go out to attack. So from here, you head out to Havenshire and kill the 10 Scarlet Crusaders or peasants, as well as the 10 citizens. You also pick up 15 of the Serenite arrows lying in the field. And while you're out there, you decide to snoop into someone's mailbox. Inside is a letter addressed to High General Abendis in New Avalon. The letter's from a hunter named Danzel Adams, who's also a member of the Scarlet Crusade. He states that he's witnessed a miracle, and says that when he was killing the Scourge, his party and him looked up to the sky to see Naxxramas moving. And apparently this is a good thing for the Scarlet Crusade. So the last thing you do is steal a horse and bring it all the way back to Death's Breach. Once you return, Salinar says that the horse that you returned has been taken to the Realm of Shadows. In that realm, Salinar's Dark Rider will slay the horse and raise it as a Death Charger. He challenges you to enter the Realm of Shadows and kill the Dark Rider, thus claiming the Death Charger as your own. And once you return to Death's Breach, you're to use the Horseman's Call to summon Salinar. So now you enter the Realm of Shadows, and you kill the Dark Rider, and bring back the Death Charger to Death's Breach. Once there, you use the Horseman's Call to summon Salinar, who then tells you to return to the world of the living for your reward. And once you return, Salinar rewards you with the ability of calling upon your own Death Charger. Now, Prince Valinar says that the front lines are completely decimated, and that the Geist will finish off the last remnants of the job, preparing the grounds for Vesuvius when he arrives. He then rewards you with Valinar's signet ring for your work out in the field. Next, you meet with Orithos the Sky Darkener, and return to him the 15 Serenite arrows. He rewards you as promised with a choice of a new cloak. Now the last thing you do is head back up to the Ebon Hold and duel 5 Death Knight initiates for the Death's Challenge. After winning all 5 duels, you head back to Ulrun the Battle Caller, and are rewarded with the insignia of the Scourge for a job well done. Now here's something very interesting. When walking around Death's Breach, you find a book under a canopy, and it's titled Account of the Raising of a Frost Worm. Basically, it talks about a necromancer named Grand Necrolord Antioch, and how he performed the incantation to raise a frost worm. It's not part of any quest, but it's fun to read, and it describes how the bones spiral together, and once the frost worm is constructed, it dips its head in acknowledgement, stating that he's part of the Scourge now. So if you ever start a new Death Knight, take a moment and read the book. It's pretty good stuff. From here, you meet again with Prince Valinar. He says that the Crusade is in a frenzy, and that they've diverted all forces outside of New Avalon to set up a blockade at Light's Point east of here. Plus, they're stripping the Havenshire mine of all resources, and loading the cargo onto ships docked at the coast. Now, It's time to shake things up a bit. Gothic the Harvester, the grand necromancer of the Lich King, has graced us with his presence, and has a gift he'd like to bestow upon the Scarlet Crusade. From here, you seek out Gothic, and prepare to assault the Scarlet Crusade by delivering Gothic's gift, whatever that may be. Yeah, the Death Knight starting area is pretty intense, and there's plenty more to cover. Thank you to the Patreon members for supporting this channel. It really helps keep the energy up in making these videos every single week. If you'd like to support this channel through Patreon, then go ahead and hit the link down below. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, then consider subscribing. Love to have you around. And with that, we'll continue the Death Knight starting area next week when we find out what happens next in the Tales of Azeroth.